But I also have good conversations with Stuart Pearce and Alan Irvine. They bore me, those boys, sort of, I can't say that about the wife. My favourite moment from last season was probably a multitude of ones, probably in Europe really more than anything. But I think the biggest night here was probably beating Seville here at home, and I wanted to be back in Europe, I wanted the club to be back in Europe, and I don't think we were really disappointed with how the games went. We were just disappointed that we didn't reach the final. A past hammer, that's really difficult, but I'd have to say, because he's just passed, I'd have to say Mark Noble probably, because he's the one who I've been with. But when I think of Payet, Di Canio, but I have to say the one who had all great leadership, loved the club, and thankfully he's going to stay around for a bit longer, Mark Noble. He'd probably be the name that would spring to mind. I think to qualify for the Champions League at Everton was a big moment for me. I won promotion at Preston as manager there. So I've had lots of good things which I'd say I've been worthy of that. I always think the best is still to come. And I think at my time at West Ham, this might sound a little bit down, but I think we've kept the team up twice when the team have been looking as if they were in difficulty. And unless you understand the level of pressure and stress you're under to try and make sure that happened in the days leading up to the games, and how important it was to make sure that we kept West Ham a Premier League club. So they'd come into it. But I have to also say, when we got the points which guaranteed European football a couple of years back was a great moment. Well, I believe we've got a stronger squad of players, which after last year we probably ran out a bit of steam when we got into the second half of the season. We were finding that we were playing a Seville or a Lyon and having to come back and play games, and it was really hard to win the games on the Sunday. So I don't think we've done a great deal different. I think we've just got a stronger group of players than maybe we even had last year. I don't have a personal routine, but I have something in place which I want the players know. We know when we'll do our preparation, we know when we'll maybe talk about the opposition, we know when we might discuss set pieces. It's not something we absolutely have hard and fast all the time, but I think it's important that you do have a structure to your work, and the players are aware of that as well. I'm telling the players here, make sure you get your badges done, make sure you're ready, don't wait till you're 33, 34 or whatever, and then it actually becomes a bit harder and you're not quite prepared for it. The other good thing about doing your coaching badges is I think it helps make you a better player, makes you understand, maybe makes you understand a bit about management and leadership and all the things which required. So many of them now have other things in their life. There's other roles in football, could be Mark's going to train up to try and be a sporting director, and there's different roles in football as well. A lot of them become pundits in modern day. Being a coach or a manager, when in my day was a big thing to try and do, maybe doesn't mean quite as much to a lot of the players in this period. I think it's important to have people who know the club, know a bit about the club, know being there, know how the supporters feel, what their thoughts are. The culture of the club is really important, that people can tell you exactly how it works and what's expected. As I've gone on, the older I've got, I've felt it even more important. I've also, the older I've gone, I've decided that I like a bigger backroom staff. I think it's required now because of the amount of training days, because of the amount of football games we've got. There's very few days off in the life of a football manager now, so you need the other staff members at times to take a bit of the work off you. So you certainly do need a bigger staff now than maybe on years gone by. I actually look back and think that I managed when I was younger with much more freedom. I'm going to say you didn't really give about whatever people thought or what they'd done. I wouldn't say I'm less emotional, but I'm certainly more focused in trying to put the games in perspective as well. Scotland in the World Cup probably, when Scotland were such a good team. So I'd have loved to have been at that time, you know, think of the players, Kenny Dalglish and Joe Jordan and Asa Hartford and Danny McGrain, and I could go on and think of just so many, Graham Souness. I could think of hundreds of top Scottish players. So Scotland were very fortunate at that time. So I think that time to be a Scotland manager would have been exceptional. My wife. But I also have good conversations with Stuart Pearce and Alan Irvine, but see, they bore me, those boys, sort of, you know, I can't say that about the wife. The last person I received a message from was David Sullivan, our owner, and we were having a good conversation about players, etc., and how things were. We do it a lot through the group chat. We try to message the players, you know, for example, players are away on international duty, we'll send them messages or keep in touch. Quite often they contact me for things which I try not to answer if I can help it. But I like them when I get them from the players. I get them a lot from my medical staff, which I don't like because it's normally telling me there's a player injured or there's a player sick. Communication now is so important, whether it's through mobiles, phones, or whether it's actually just speaking directly with people nowadays. I think communication is vitally important. I like all of London. Actually, I lived in Stratford for a year and a half when I first came down, and it was probably during COVID, so I got to know a bit about it. I'd done a lot of walking around, especially around all the Olympic sites. But obviously, I think for anybody who doesn't come from London, I think Central London's a great place. It's a great place for theatre, you know, museums, parks, you know, shopping, whatever you choose to do. I'm very easygoing, and for many years I've tried to eat a lot more fish than I've ever done, you know. I've got to say, I think there's so many good places to eat in London. People will tell you better than me. I'm not a foodie, but I'm certainly someone who, if I get a chance to go for a good dinner, I certainly enjoy it. But mainly at the moment, you know, I don't live too far away from Canary Wharf, and quite often I'll find myself eating in one of the restaurants there. Trying to lose a bit of weight, that's the problem. Would I say, yeah, look, I love football. I love watching football, I love going to football, and you know, I was brought up with it. And you're right, my family, my dad ran a boys team in Glasgow, a very famous boys team in Glasgow. It produced lots of players for professional sides, and I used to go, and my mum used to wash the strips, and you know, I'd put them in the bags, and I would pump up the balls and do all the things round when I was a young boy. But I never believed that was going to be, my career was going to be a football player and fortunate enough to go on to be a manager. But it just shows you how life is. You just never know how it is. And there was a period through my career at the end, maybe coming near the end, getting close to my 30s, and I was getting offered jobs and opportunities. I think that's probably where I went into it. I was at a level of I was really watching, trying to find out, going to see other teams train, writing to managers, seeing what information I could get out. I think you have to have a real love of the game and know that you're going to have a lifetime of weekends away, not at home. So I'm very fortunate I've got a good wife who understands that was what I wanted to do. Done. Good stuff.